Okay, so today, go back to Moodle really quick. So we went through a lot last Thursday. We went through typography, repetition, contrast. I have some of the, main pages, I guess, from the textbook posted on Moodle. We went through some additional resources on Thursday, a little bit on color, margins, and chapter 3, which was really quick. And then remember, you uploaded a tiny little, just your name. So it was practicing with kerning and, manual kerning especially. You've already done a lot with character and paragraph spacing after, etc. So we're going to go through business cards today, and your assignment will be business cards, but in the textbook, so up in Moodle, there's the non-designer's design book, the extra tips and tricks. So that's what I'm basically, just a little bit on business cards is what I'll cover today. Okay, so my screen's not on, is it? Okay, it's coming on. So standard business cards are 3.5 inches wide by 2 inches tall. So you're going to be creating a document today in InDesign that lays out 8 of them. So there'll be 2, side by side, and then 4 down. So you'll have 8. And then a company would have a really great sharp cutter that you would cut, all of your business cards out. And it's coming here in just a minute. And you can find business cards with a, landscape orientation or tall orientation. So it's kind of your preference and what works best for your design. And the key is to put information on your business card that you want, as far as how you would like to be contacted. So if you're never answering your phone and everything's by email, then I'd probably emphasize the email and de-emphasize the phone. If you work by phone or by text or your website or something like that, you need to emphasize how you want the contact. So this one, everything's kind of the same. I mean, you can tell the company or the dentist or whatever, and then the person that's the treatment coordinator. This one might be a little bit better, so you really see Orlando. The third one, you really see Orlando. The fourth one, so you see the name of the company. It's offset in that, remember that reverse type box, plus you do see the name. You've got a little bit clearer separation, I think, because you've got bolding, so there's emphasis on the cell, emphasis on the phone, emphasis on the fax, if that's what that is. Another version, so the bottom version, this one has far more contrast, but I think it's, again, maybe this one's a little more organized as far as cell, your phone and your fax, and a little bit more for a website, so it kind of has that closure a little bit. I do kind of like that, where there's either, and some people like kind of a box around everything to hold it in, but even a lot of times just, the entry, something that catches your eye, that high contrast, and then something similar. It doesn't have to be the same box or whatever, but just kind of that closure. And the vertical version does kind of the same thing. So you've got very clear who the person is, the contact of the person, and then the website. And lots of other varieties here. So in this particular instance, and a lot of folks are doing 2-sided business cards now. I don't know if you've noticed that, but they could have even kind of what they do, basically, car repair, or, especially if their name doesn't specify exactly what they do, but a lot of times they do that. Anyway, so this person probably just kind of likes the web as, more than anything else as far as a contact. Here, that's a little too light, I would say. So again, your contrast needs to be high. Tips on designing business cards. So you've got a lot of information that you have to fit into a small space. Here, I'm right up there. So oftentimes, there's not always an address anymore. That might be more tied to the brick and mortar. A lot of times now people do things online, so may not need an address. Most of the time there's some sort of a phone. Most likely it's a cell phone. Fax, maybe. Email, probably. You might have Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, whatever is most suited to your company. Pinterest. You probably have a web address as well. So also try to eliminate things that really aren't essential to communicate how you want to be contacted, kind of what you do on that business card. And whether you choose the vertical or the horizontal, your layout will be horizontal, but you certainly can choose to do vertical if you want to. So one of the biggest problems, probably early designers, we're used to 10 to 12 point, 11 to 12 point probably in everything we do. And so you put that, larger type on a business card and it's actually a little bit too big. So you might find that maybe 9 point, it depends on the typeface that you use, but maybe even 8 or 7, so it depends. And you may have 12 point, maybe the name or the company name, something like that might be larger, but a lot of the other information, it might be too large. You want to create consistency on all of your pieces, so the letterhead may have slightly larger point size. It may make sense that it's 11 point versus 9 point, but probably the same typeface, the same colors, the same logo, everything very similar. So this one is kind of a designed, everything at the bottom there is very similarly designed around, the same style. So that's probably about all we need to go through today in this textbook. So I'll go ahead and minimize that. And back into Moodle. So on this week, September 23 to 29, that's hidden from you so you can't see it. So chapter 3, we did the chapter 3, the typography, spacing, character, paragraph spacing, etc. So I think you're ready to go for this assignment. And there's a little bit about the Adobe Creative Team. So there's a little blog, and it's information about logos, business stationery, brochures, flyers, social media graphics, and data graphics. We can go ahead and click on that. And as far as tips for pieces and parts. So logos, you don't want to mistake your logo for your brand identity. Your logo is the graphic that you use to promote, so it's the instant recognition that you promote, not necessarily brand identity. And I won't go through everything there. It does need to be scalable. So remember, we've talked about tiny business cards all the way up to sponsoring a golf tournament, and I need this sign that's 5 feet by 4 feet, something like that, and I need my graphic on there. Stationery, so that includes your letterhead, your business cards, memos, and things like that. The quality of the design is important, and 72% say that they judge a company or a person by the quality of their business card. 78% say a color card is more memorable than a plain white card. And to select a color scheme, remember Adobe, we had on Thursday that sweet little Adobe help as far as choosing colors and colors that go together. And you can look at monochromatic colors as well. Consider how body copy will look on your letterhead. So you're not going to be copying and pasting your business card and format and alignment and size and pasting it on your letterhead. So that's not going to work, I guess, if you think of it that way. So you're going to have to probably move things around, change sizes, etc. Brochures, I don't know that we need to go through that because we're not going through brochures right now, so we'll come back to that later. That was probably good there. There's the business cards instructions. So I've got some extra tips here. So as far as the tips for, oh, that's from this book, isn't it? We already went through that. Business card examples, that was from this book, went through that. So I have just a little sample image, and it's a word. I've got two samples really. One's a little bigger than another. So in InDesign, you're going to be creating something that looks similar to that. That's a ruler guide is what that is, as I was aligning with some text I had. But you'll only create the top left business card. And I'll go through the instructions so that you understand what I mean. Everything needs to be placed inside, so where you see these rule guides here, so in this case it's the be the second blue, turquoise blue. Everything needs to be within there, so if you picture a cutting machine coming along there and cutting, you don't want, so for this case my email, if that was too close there, I would risk cutting off part of the letters for my email address. Same thing with the right here goes to the column, the top goes to the margin, and then this one here, actually the blue is, or no, the margin is the pink there. So I've got a little setting just to make sure my type and such is aligned. So I'm aligning my little ship graphic, my ship's wheel with yachts. Okay, so let's go ahead and move to the instructions. And that's business card instructions. It's a Word document. And I'll make this a little bit larger so you can see it. Okay, so you are designing your own business card. And there's lots of business cards online, so as far as the look that you want, you can find something that you kind of like and mimic it. You're going to divide a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, so that's your physical page, into 8 equally sized, so the little virtual business cards. And again, horizontal orientation, but you can work with it the other way if necessary. We'll set up the document together, so we'll refer back to this in a minute, but again, 8.5 by 11, tall orientation. We're going to set up 2 columns with a gutter, margins all the way around. We're going to create some guides, and you can create other guides, further guides to help you out within your business card. But that's going to help us lay out where all the, other margins and such are. You're required to use your first name, your last name. I want you to be a designer of something. I don't care what you design. I design yachts if it was in my perfect world, because I think they're kind of fun. But you can design anything you want. If you want to name a company, so my example doesn't have an organization name, but go ahead and ABC Widgets, whatever you want to call yourself. We might as well use this address, so that's fine with me, Missoula. That's actually my phone here. I made that one up. I'm not expecting you to give me phone numbers. You can use the made up ones here. Please do use your real student email address. I'd like you to add a glyph or an image of some sort that would kind of mimic your logo. It could be that there's webdings or wingdings. Remember those? I used a little ship's wheel. It's kind of, goofy looking, but you might find something that's kind of fun online. So I would like you to add an image of some sort. So we want to start, we'll begin by drawing a text box, in the upper left, so we'll do all that good stuff, and we'll type our information in. I would practice with some format, so before you really decide on typefaces and sizes and all that, I would kind of practice with it, see what fits well on the business card. If you want to print it out, I don't know that you have printing access, but somehow I can get that and I can print it out if you would like to see it physically printed first. And we'll only probably print just the one, top left corner. We're going to emphasize the important elements, group-related text blocks. So this is totally ungrouped, right? So that's all the same space, same space, same space, same space. Nothing emphasized, nothing emphasized. It's just all there. So I don't want that from you. So you want to be sure that you're grouping. Do I want to group this part together? Do I want to group all my contact together? Do I want to add a website? Do I have a Facebook page? You can add that if you want to. Do I want to bold my name? Do I want to make it bigger? If I decide I want an organization name, what do I do with that? So again, this is just the information, not the format. Change leading, change spacing after, add emphasis with bold. Italic can be harder to read. You don't often see italic on business cards. So I'm not sure about, and underlining. I might avoid underlining in italic. Bold and size for sure. High contrast, if you want to change tint, if you want to put things within reverse type boxes, remember you know how to do that. It's not necessary that one text box includes all this stuff. If you want to separate those out, you can do that. But remember, if you do, so if you have a solid alignment, whether it's right align or left align, if you have those boxes all over the place, remember to give yourself a rule so that all of your boxes align exactly perfectly. Okay, you may need, again, it's your design, several text boxes or just the one. Remember alignment, the purpose to organize and unify, not randomly place things all over the place. So it's designed with a strong visual connection, strong alignment. You could almost draw a line. Proximity, so that's to improve organization, the clarity of your message to group related items together. Those that belong together should physically be close together. Imply that relationship. Repetition, to enhance visual connection, repeat some aspect of the design throughout the piece. Purpose is to unify, add visual interest. Contrast, again, it's some interest, but it's also to organize, lead the eye, and can provide that opening and closure kind of a deal. Let's see. Assess the layout. This is for you again. Are elements inside the edges of your card so that the physical trimming of those cards doesn't cut elements out. So the edge results in a clean, defined edge. Does typeface represent the character of you or the organization? Is typeface sized proportionate to the business card? Is it pleasing to your eye? Does it all fit well? Where does your eye travel first? And if you want to share with one another and get opinions of your fellow students, I'm okay with that. I think that's a strength. Where should your eye travel first? Do you see strong alignment? Are related elements grouped? Is there high contrast, not merely a slight difference? Make sure everything's legible. So if you have something laying on the top of something else, make sure it's legible. And remember, that's object arrange. If you are grouping things on top of one another, object arrange, bring to send to front, or send to back, bring to front. If you need to push text away, so this is just a reminder, remember the object text frame option setting and your inset. And then remember to add your image or your glyph, and again, I'll let you decide that. Optional, if you feel like a line, a box, something else is required, go for it. You saw the diagonal line. To keep a line straight, hold down your Shift key. It's just like Microsoft Word. Do you remember that? Shift key, and it keeps it straight so you don't get this jaggy thing. All elements of the final business card. So let's see. We did all that. So what you're going to do is copy. So, here, I'll come down here. Okay, so remember that one little example that showed just this little top left business card? So you're going to use a feature called Step and Repeat in this program. Yeah, it's really sweet. So you're going to highlight everything on the first business card, and you're going to step and repeat to the right one time. And I've got measurements for you. Then you're going to highlight the whole top. So it would be not yachts twice, so remember that if yours isn't yachts. But then you're going to highlight that, and you're going to step and repeat down 3 times. So that fills it all in. And then because the step and repeat is precise, you have precise measures you're going to be keying in. You don't have to worry about, oh man, this business card is slightly lower than this business card. So that inconsistency, again, everything should be consistent. If I hand person A the business card, it should be exactly the same as the B business card. And step and repeat measures, so I'll go through that with you here in just a second, but you repeat one, offsets I've got keyed for you, same thing there. And this is sort of kind of, again, I've just thrown this in there. That's a quick example. That is not what yours is going to look like. But it contains what I do. I work on yachts and houseboats and cabin cruisers and sailboats. You can see my name. I'm an interior designer. Again, this was super quick. And then I have this little logo, and my little logo is kind of separated from everything else. So I don't even know if that's good. You know, I mean, this is not a solid design here. Let's see. Again, simple, quick. It's just representation of what the whole thing will look like. And then I'd like you to save in InDesign format. So, you know, that's your normal format. And then do your save, file, export, PDF presets, high print quality. I'd like you to submit 2 files. One that's your InDesign file and one that's your PDF file. And I probably have at least 3 submissions, if not 4. I'll double check that just to make sure. And you can always remove, if you submit a file and you don't want to submit that one, you can remove that from Moodle. But you will be submitting 2 documents. Does that make sense? PDF and InDesign. Okay, so let's go to InDesign. So those are actually just, you draw a line, and it's a thin, it would be like a thin hairline, and you use your XY coordinates to do that. And then there's also, so we won't get into the separations and such on this particular assignment. I'll show you. We don't, with Printing and Graphic Services, and I do have, again, I've got this little bag of stuff that I'll bring you that kind of shows you more about alignment and the color coding from top to bottom, what a document looks like when it's oversized and versus trimmed. So again, and then the plate. So I've got a lot of that. Printing and Graphic Services had, you know, everything kind of all laid out for us. So it was really great to go over there and see that. And I might be able to locate another company. They just had such a big facility that we all could like walk through the whole thing. And Ken would give us the tour. So anyway, so I don't need this document. Let's go to File and then New and then Document. And you can see the little Word document here too. So I'll go back up in case you need to go back to do this again. So we're going to do 8.5 by 11, the 51P0 by 66P0, tall orientation, 2 columns, 3P0, and our margins are all 3P0. So we'll come over here, and custom is fine, but let's double check. 51P0, 66P0, measure in picas, that's fine. Tall orientation, I don't want facing. It is 1 page. I want 2 columns, and I want a gutter of 3P0. Okay, so, and we can change this again. If settings go awry, we can sure change this again. 2 columns, 3P0, and then my margins are 3P0 all the way around. And remember, you can just chain link them and type one in or click on one if you've got different settings from another document. There should be no bleed and no slug. What this kind of assumes, I guess if you did have color that printed off, you could do, so if you plan on having color that, you know, like this book where color prints off, if you feel like you want to have a little bit of bleed, I would leave it all the way around, and we could probably do, let's see, I think 0P3, I'll try it and see what that looks like. Oh, we'll be trimming here, don't do that. File, let me see here, margins and columns. File document setup. No, we don't need bleed and slug because 0. Okay, because your cut marks are going to be along the 3P0 margins. Okay, so if I had a 8.5 by 11 inch page and the whole thing was going to be printed in yellow, then I would have to bleed outside of it, but here I don't have to. Okay, so you should have 3, and you can see that that's the same measure, that 3P0 in the middle. If for some reason you need to adjust that so it doesn't look right, you can always go to layout and then margins and columns. And again, just adjust it again, 2 columns, 3P0 as my gutter, and then okay. And preview shows you. Okay, so then we'll come back here. We did that already. So then we're going to create guides that allow, and this document does allow for bleed, but when we go to layout, create guides, we'll create 4 rows with a gutter of 4P0 and no columns, fit guides to margins, da 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 da. So we'll go out and go to layout and create guides. And then you want to turn preview on so that you can see what you do here. Okay, so we'll do 4 rows. And you can either type it in or 4, okay? And then we're going to do a gutter of 4P0. So again, I can gutter, type it in, up arrow key, and then you can click in another box. So when you set something in order to see what you did on screen, you want to set it in the box. And I think we already have the setting, but so no columns. Fit guides to margin option, and we want to go to, instead of page, we want to go to margin, and no columns, so I think we're good to go. So 4 rows, 4P0 gutter, no columns, fit guides to margin, and you can kind of see the difference there. Fit guide to page would be the page edge versus margin is this. So each of these little boxes here should be 3.5 by 2. So you should see, so the 1/2 inch, so the 3P0 probably goes here. So that's correct there. And then we've got 24. So we've got our 1, 2, 3 inches and a half there. So we're good also there. So they're the standard business card size. Now, if you have to come in here, so you realize that your ruler guides are all goofy, you can remove existing ruler guides so that you can start over again, because sometimes they go on top of one another. So it's like, which ones are the new ones that I'm setting and which ones are the old ones. So you do have to remove the existing before you can start adding new ones. So we'll say okay to that. And then you can start with your type tool and type text. So that's basically what you're doing. You know how to add a glyph or go online, save an image. If you find an image, don't find something that's, 1,000 by 1,000. So you probably want to look for maybe the smaller, so an image that's smaller as far as a logo. The glyphs are small. I mean, you already know how they work. Remember your alignments. So I've got on my character palette here, way to the right, I've got different alignments I can choose. I've got my either spacing after or spacing before. If you need to change tracking, remember we went through that on Thursday. All sorts of different point sizes. You can adjust your leading. Lots of different, except for Minion Pro, you get some choices there. Boxes, so you know how to draw. Again, the text box you can fill with something. Create a stroke, the line tool for creating a line. Any other questions on pieces and parts? Okay, and then the line is the tool here, and you most likely have to set, so it comes as a 0 at the get-go. So you can draw a line, and it kind of looks like, I'll use my shift key, and again, you kind of want to start, you know, where is my line that I want to begin with. If I start at that edge, and actually, if I cut it off, I may want to even go beyond slightly so that it cuts edge to edge, unless I actually want it placed inside. So think about those cut marks, because that's exactly what's going to happen here. And I used to have, to answer your question, I used to have students draw little cut marks on there, but it was...
Like what a shop does?
I
forget what they call it
I'd have to look at that. So quite a while ago when I talked to Ken about that, that's what they did, is because I asked him that too. And it could be that they updated versions. But they would draw, they set their business cards up exactly like this. And then they would draw their lines. And it could be that some of them are different. I'll look into that and see.
Yeah, we used to do that for the cutting press that we had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so does that answer? Oh, and then setting the point size, you know, to make it quite thick, you can set the point size. There's even different, so we didn't really cover the style of the line, but there's solids and there's thin thicks and there's dots and dashes. So you can try something unique if you'd like to. Okay, if you're kind of stumped and you feel like you want to look for business card examples, go to business cards and I don't think I want that, images, and there's all sorts of styles here, some better than others, but you see, you know, some of the same principles that we've talked about. A little more artistic. It's pretty strong alignment, simple. So that kind of helps you to get started as well. Okay, so I will stop my recording and let you work.